Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic: Discover NatHab's Grand India Wildlife Adventure. Presented by NatHab expedition leaders Aditya Panda and Vineith Mahadev. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Over to you, Aditya.
Thank you, Rob, and hello to our wonderful guests. The India safari season has well and truly begun, and we are looking forward to a fantastic season. And as a lot of you might know, we start with the Grand India Wildlife Adventure, which is my favorite trip, and I'm pretty sure it's also Vineeth's favorite trip here in India. Um, a lot of you must be looking forward to traveling with us this season, and this webinar is for you as well as those of you who might be interested in going on this expedition sometime soon. So, before we get started, um, let me introduce myself, and then Vineeth can do the same for himself. And then we shall talk about everything that you need to know and you need to keep in mind before going on a Grand India Wildlife Adventure. My name is Aditya Panda, and I have been leading NatHab expeditions in India since 2016. I primarily lead the Grand India Wildlife Adventure, India Tiger Quest, and our India Tiger Photo Expedition. When I'm not leading NatHab expeditions, I'm based in eastern central India in a state called Orissa, where I work for the conservation of tiger and elephant landscapes.
Hi, my name is Vineith Mahadev. I am a natural habitat expedition guide since 2019, and I mostly lead Grand India Wildlife Adventure and the Snow Leopard Quest, which is a photo expedition. And when I'm not working with natural habitat, I am a naturalist consulting various experiences and training, and I'm mostly based in central India.
So, the Grand India Wildlife Adventure is our favorite trip for a reason. Um, there are very few itineraries, very few trips where you can see so much wildlife, so much of India's megafauna in a 2 week window. This trip combines three fantastic national parks, three phenomenal wildlife conservation successes: the Bandhavgarh National Park and Tiger Reserve, Kanha National Park and Tiger Reserve, and Kaziranga National Park and Tiger Reserve, which are spread across different landscapes, different parts of India. Kanha and Bandhavgarh are in central India, or in what we prefer to call the central India tiger landscape. So that, in essence, is the heart of India's wilderness. And these are both amazing national parks to visit, to experience what you would call, well, for the lack of a better term, typical Indian wilderness, or mainland Indian wilderness. And in those two parks, we get to see not only tigers, because those two parks are excellent for some great tiger viewing, but also the majority of mainland India's mammals and birds. And then we head on to Kaziranga, which is in the far east, in a region we call the Northeast India, which in fact borders Southeast Asia. It borders that region, that part of India is surrounded by Myanmar, Tibet, and Bangladesh, and Bhutan, and Nepal. And that is where subcontinental India transitions into Southeast Asia. And as a result, you see some very unique, some very interesting wildlife there that you do not see in other parts of India, like the great one-horned rhinoceros, gibbons, and a lot of other animals that we'll talk about today. Um, this itinerary gives you amazing opportunities to see a lot of many different species of megafauna, what in classical safari language would be called big game, but we prefer megafauna. And from tigers to elephants to rhinos to wild buffalo to gore, we see a lot of large mammals on this trip. If I were to compare this trip to our other tiger trips, I would say that this is an Indian wildlife trip on which you get to have some phenomenal tiger sightings versus what, say, India Tiger Quest or India Tiger Photo Expedition would be, which would be, a great tiger trip on which you can also see some other wildlife. So I think that sort of describes the trip really well. This trip gives us some fantastic photographic opportunities. We get to explore really different landscapes and really different geographies of India. We cover more than 3,500 miles on this trip. So we actually get to experience many different cultures, many different landscapes, and a lot of excellent wildlife. And of course, traveling as we shall be in the finest tiger country in the world, we get to experience not just the tiger, but its entire domain, all the other beautiful animals and plants that occupy it in a really deep experience. So, Vineeth, this season we have some changes in the Grand India Wildlife Adventure, which have made it even better.
Yeah.
Would you like to touch upon that a bit?
Oh yeah. So this season, one of my favorite parts is the walking experience that we get to do in the tiger reserves. Uh,
Right,
Very few places in the world is where you can walk, where these big cats and megafauna like bears and gore, which is one of the largest wild cattle in the world, they all exist around this place. And you're walking amidst these megafauna. It's just fascinating. And while we're walking, it's to learn a lot about these tracks and other fauna which we don't usually stop and see when we're moving in a vehicle. That one. And then there's another unique experience is to be in the night in a tiger country. It's beautiful. To turn off vehicles, just to hear the sounds and warning calls of animals getting there. So it's a very interesting experience, night drives, and that's something that we do. And Kanha, being one of the beautiful national parks in the country with beautiful meadows and tree lines there, this one extra day also gets us one more additional safari on a itinerary. That's the best part of adding one of these days into Kanha. Yeah,
right, right. It also sort of makes the pace of the trip a little easier because we
yeah,
we did this based on a lot of feedback that came from our guests, and we always look at evals and feedbacks after our trips. We love to look at them, and this trip involves a lot of long travel days, and we cover a lot of distance and travel, as I've said, across vastly very large geographies of the country. So just adding that extra day also makes it a little less taxing and gives us just slows it down just the right bit.
yeah,
So yeah, so yeah, it's a trip that takes us literally through what, a third of India maybe.
yeah,
There's a lot of
yeah,
flying involved. Yeah. So we start from Delhi. We fly to a city called Jabalpur, which is almost in the center of India. Then we drive to Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve and spend 3 nights there. And then we drive to Kanha Tiger Reserve, where we earlier used to spend 3 nights, but now we will be spending 4 nights. And from Kanha, we drive again to Raipur and fly to Calcutta, or Kolkata as it is called now. We spend a night there, and the next morning we are back at the airport catching another plane, overflying Bangladesh and into Jorhat up in Assam. And from there, we drive to Kaziranga, and we spend 3 nights in Kaziranga, and then drive to the capital of Assam, to a city called Guwahati, and then fly back all the way to Delhi with the Himalayan mountain range on our right hand side. And if it's a clear day, then you get to see Kanchenjunga and a lot of the other beautiful peaks of the Himalaya. But yeah, the expedition, flying and driving, and game drive time included, is, it covers more than 3,500 miles, which is a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what. So when we have to begin this kind of a mega journey, we need to get a very good snapshot of the whole country, and nothing better than Delhi, which has like literally a poster card from every corner of the country. Especially when we, after checking in to this Delhi hotel here in Taj Mahal Hotel, on your arrival, the next day we keep you busy in the Delhi old town itself. The old Delhi city is what we do on the next day after you get your jet lag done and to get over that jet lag further. So that this is a very fun activity or an exploration of the old Delhi. So going through these old town in push carts or cycle rickshaws, this is going to be fun. This is actually one of the best places to do some people watching, photography of the way people live, and your first introduction to Indian traffic. What do you think, Aditya?
Absolutely. And also your first introduction to your expedition leader. This is the day you meet one of us. And after this overwhelming uh, visual experience or sensory experience of seeing different parts of Delhi, which is like traveling between different eras, when you go from New Delhi to Old Delhi and then back. After that exciting day, in the evening, we sit together over a nice drink and a lovely dinner. And that's when you get your pre trip briefing and know what to expect from the next day onwards, because the next day is going to be an exciting day.
Yeah. So it's going to be a beautiful start. Like we are heading towards Bandhavgarh, the first national park. But the start is to get up very early and catch a plane to reach Jabalpur, and then we have about 5 hours drive through the countryside. Amazing. The tribal communities live there called Gond. So we pass through a few villages there, and then into the countryside. And then sometimes, I mean, Aditya and I, we both have had guests even before we touched the park entrance, leave alone getting into the lodge, which is another 5 minutes from the entrance. We've encountered tigers on the road, like just and even making kill for you, was it?
Yes, for me, yes. But let's not get expectations up there, because, with wildlife, it's chance. But
Yeah,
yes, it has happened that even before we arrived at our lodge from the airport, we have seen tigers on the way.
yeah,
We arrive at the lodge usually around lunchtime. And then after a quick lunch and checking into the lodge, we go on an afternoon game drive, and that, in a sense, begins our safari. So that day is actually my favorite day of the trip, because just escaping urban India and landing in the heart of central India is one of the happiest feelings ever.
absolutely.
And
Yeah, yeah. It even goes to tell that how we've handpicked and chosen certain experiences where we want to cover the grand India's fauna and flora. Yet at the same time, we center this around where high density of and chances of seeing tigers are also. So that's why I would love to emphasize that there are high chances just the moment we start driving towards the national park, your safari is on. I mean, of course, we do an official game drive after lunch. Yeah. And the next 2 days, we are on game drives, exploring different regions, checking out different habitats. Bandhavgarh is one of the most iconic national parks, again, with its beautiful old fort. One of the oldest forts in India resides in Bandhavgarh. So we drive around that fort, exploring different meadows and jungles, looking for a lot of wildlife.
yeah, so we
Yeah,
do morning and afternoon game drives. The morning drives are usually around 5 hours long, and the afternoon game drives are typically 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours long. So those are long days. So we spend a lot of time exploring. um, and looking for wildlife. And the so after spending 3 nights at Bandhavgarh, on day 5 of the trip, we start on an overland journey to my favorite national park in the whole world, Kanha National Park. And thanks to our extra day there, our day of arrival at Kanha is now a relaxed day. We start early in the morning after an early breakfast, say around 7 o'clock, and from Bandhavgarh, and we drive about 5 hours to Kanha through beautiful central Indian countryside, and arrive at Kanha just in time for lunch again. And after lunch, we go on a walking safari along the Banjar River, just adjoining the core area of the national park. And then we come back to camp. And for those of us who are feeling up to it, after an early dinner, we go on a short night drive. The night game drive takes us to the buffer zone of the park at night, and it's not very far at all from where our camp is. And it is a phenomenal experience being in tiger country in the middle of the night, turning off your headlights, switching off the engine, and just sitting there and listening. And of course, driving around at night, you get to see a lot of things that you would never get to see by daylight. So it is quite an experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very relaxing entry into after 3 busy days, and then next 2 days we are actually just settling in after the jet lag and your eyes peel, and now the guest actually starts spotting wildlife for us. So this is the time when you're actually inside the heart of the Central Indian jungle. And next couple of days it's mostly game drive, mostly we're doing in the same zone here, and probably add one more zone to experience different habitats of this national park in one of the mornings. And similar, we have 5 and 4 hours of morning drive and evening drive. Roughly we spend about 9 to 10 hours in the national park. So that's the beauty of this whole Grand India tour. So the number of
Yeah,
hours, if you see in total, it's huge amount of hours we spend inside national parks and tiger country.
yeah, yeah. So we do what, 5 game drives in Kanha, and on our last morning at Kanha, we do go on a morning drive. Sometimes it's a shortened morning drive because we have a plane to catch, and to do that, we have to drive from Kanha to a city called Raipur, which is 4 hours away. And then from Raipur, we get on a 4 o'clock flight to Calcutta. I keep saying Calcutta because I'm used to it, but it's Kolkata now. And we arrive at Kolkata just about dinner time. And that night is a night of rest for us. It's a long travel day. You start your morning really early, go on a game drive, and then spend the entire day driving to the airport and then flying. And when we arrive at Kolkata, we are quite, extremely exhausted. But I must say, Vineet, the dinner at the
Oh yeah,
Taj Calcutta is amazing. And the good thing after that is that you get to have a lie in that night, and the next morning you can wake up. You can get a full 8 hours of sleep and more before you have to head back to the airport to go on to the next leg of the trip.
yeah. So next plane is the midday flight, but we reach at lunch, straight out of the airport. Just go drive into tea gardens and surrounded by tea leaves, and sometimes you might see tea picking, hand picking activities sometimes in the season. Usually winter is a little low in tea activity, but otherwise it's fantastic. But there's beautiful bird life the moment you land into these gardens, and we have a nice meal offered by one of the tea garden estate owners, and from
Lovely,
there we drive. Sorry.
lovely Assamese food.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So I mean, the food is variation that we'll touch upon that. That's going to take about a couple of slides, I think. So, So from there, we drive about 3.5 hours to our camp. But having said that, India has just one time zone, but technically, the India width is so wide. We technically have three time zones, starting from Mumbai, Chennai, or Madras, and Kolkata East. So, but we have a very mean set of one single time zone, 5.5 hours from GMT. But otherwise, technically, you're getting it gets darker, say by 4:45, 5 o'clock, pretty much early in winters. So after our Central Indian experience, and then you get to Kaziranga, most of our evenings get like very shorter and shorter, and we usually tend to arrive a bit into dark hours when we enter the camp. But nonetheless, the camp is magical. The moment we enter, there is amazing invitation and welcome, and then we spend the next 3 days there in this stunning camp. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like you've arrived in the middle of the night, but it's only 6 o'clock when you look at your watch.
Yeah.
So that's something that the circadian rhythm sometimes struggles to adjust with. But Kaziranga is a beautiful park. It is one of the largest congregations of megafauna on the planet, not just in India. In fact, I myself was surprised when I was told that the density of large mammals in Kaziranga surpasses some of the East African plains regions. Kaziranga, of course, is best known for the great one-horned rhinoceros, but it also has very large densities of Asian elephant, Asiatic wild buffalo, and of course one of the highest tiger densities in the world. But you know when you arrive at Kaziranga, the landscape begins to change so much that
Yeah.
you start missing a lot of the familiar creatures of central India, and you start seeing new animals. For example, the eastern swamp deer is so prolific, and the hog deer completely replaces the spotted deer, and the landscape is so different. And in this landscape, we spend 2 days going on game drives, going even on elephant back safaris. There are elephants. Kaziranga National Park has one of the largest cores of working elephants. These are extremely well looked after animals that are officially, literally like officers of the Forest and Wildlife Department, and they're absolutely crucial for managing and protecting a park like Kaziranga, because these elephants can go places no vehicle, no ATV, no person can safely go. And they are also available for us as visitors to experience and to walk up to large animals like rhinos, because there's no other safe way to approach a rhino. Of course, you can see them from vehicles, but you can never get as close as you can on elephant back. We also go on a boat safari in Kaziranga. Um, the Kaziranga National Park lies entirely in the floodplains of a massive river called the Brahmaputra. And, we get a chance to visit that river and go on a boat safari in it. And while on a boat safari, there are lots of wildlife spotting opportunities. Of course, you do get to see the Gangetic river dolphin, which is a blind freshwater dolphin, one of the only two species of freshwater dolphin that survive on the planet today. But also, you get to see the grasslands of Kaziranga, and sometimes you get to see elephant and rhino. And very, very few lucky people have had a chance to see a tiger while on a boat safari in Kaziranga. So Kaziranga is amazing, and we spend these 2 days there on game drive, boat ride, and elephant safari.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's so unique, this national park. The moment you actually go eastwards, the country changes, like you mentioned earlier, how it's a transitional phase into the southeastern landscape. And
Yeah,
this place is, other than the fauna that we've seen in central India, like tigers, even sometimes we may encounter elephants in Bandhavgarh,
mhm,
maybe a few, but and then Barasinga is another species that you will see in Kanha. So these species are quite similar that you might expect. However, we'll add a few more new mammals onto our list, especially the primates group. Like this, the only other ape in India are the Hulok gibbons in wild. The western Hulok gibbons and the eastern Hulok gibbons we have. So there are a few families that live in few pockets of parts of the park, as well as the among tea gardens. So that's where we stop and follow these families and try and get a glimpse of them and see their daily activities in the morning. Other than that, we also have the slow loris, which is extremely rare to see, and we'll have to be at night actually in a few places. Then you have the cap lungos, different monkeys that we see from central India. Then you
yeah,
have other large mammal is the Asiatic wild buffalo that you add along with the. I mean, Kaziranga is known for these large animals like the rhino, tigers, elephants, the water buffaloes, and Barasinga. I mean,
yeah,
I would even count the great hornbill to be one of the among the birds, and then you have a few freshwater terrapins and turtles, which are a few of the largest ones found in the swamps there.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
fascinating landscape.
It's a fascinating landscape, and on day 13 we um, end our wildlife portion of the trip, and we drive to Guwahati, which is the capital city of the state, and on the way we sometimes do get to watch these Hulok gibbons, and then from Guwahati we fly to Delhi, as I was saying, with the Himalaya on our right hand side, offering a splendid view when there are clear skies. And on day 13 or night 13 is where usually when most of the group will fly back home. But then there will be a few who would extend their trip with a visit to Agra, where we get to see this famous white building, the Taj Mahal. And day 14 and 15 are spent in Agra, and on day 15, we drive back to Delhi, and most of us will then fly home. So from Delhi, let me get back to day 13. So when we arrive at Delhi on day 13, those of us flying out will be taken to the airport or to their day room by the airport. And the rest of us are going to go back to the Taj Mahal Hotel and spend the night there. And on day 14, those of us going to Agra will have a nice, relaxed breakfast and then drive to Agra. And excuse me. And at Agra, we'll spend our time watching and experiencing beautiful monuments like the Agra Fort and the Taj Mahal. And then on day 15, after an early morning sunrise visit to the Taj Mahal, which is absolutely magical because that monument looks beautiful in the first rays of sunlight. After doing that, we drive back to Delhi, and that's when everyone flies home. So, Vineet, what would you pack for a trip like this?
Yeah, so for somewhere from November, if or even December this year we're starting, and all the way till March, I would usually layer myself with a shirt, then a fleece. In fact, December, January, I would even have another warmer layer inside my shirt, and because it gets very cold, especially the central Indian part, Bandhavgarh and Kanha. Kaziranga is slightly humid and warmer. But for central India, between December, January, when I'm going, I would take additional layers for my thermal layers, inner layers. If I'm generally a cold person, I would usually layer about three fleece, an inner layer, and a t-shirt, and on that, down jacket at least for the first hour and a half when the wind is very high, and then a warm hat and a nice thick buff. We usually have good buffs from NatHab, Gear Store. So that's both. You have warm ones as well as the light cotton ones. Both works well. And the buff is very important. I use it throughout the drive because to prevent from dust from other vehicles, especially when we're getting out of the park. That's when I would use the buff the most. And that's what I would do. And yeah, a couple of footwear I would keep, shoes, and then probably closed toe footwear, just to get through the airports, because most of our airports they get us to remove our shoes. So I would just wear my sandals or a footwear through the airport.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I have my safari shoes and my airport shoes.
yeah,
When shoes go over your ankle, they make you take them off at the airports, and it just makes the whole process all the more painful. But
yeah,
yeah, one has to really layer up on these trips because it does get very cold. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it doesn't seem that cold. But when you're out in an open jeep with the additional factor of wind chill, it does get pretty cold. And we do have frost in the mornings a lot of times in December and January. So from November through February or even early March, I would say have multiple layers. And then even in our later trips, which are in March and April, even if it might get really hot in the middle of the day, in the mornings you still need at least a layer of fleece when you go into the parks. And of course, we have an extensive packing checklist and an optional packing checklist and many checklists in the pre-departure briefing booklet. So that's yet another reason to read that booklet really carefully before you prepare for your trip. Um, Cameras, I did a separate webinar on camera gear that you might want to carry on your India expeditions. And serious photographers among our audience might want to go through that webinar. There's a recorded version on the website. But to go very quickly and briefly over what kind of cameras and how many to carry, I would say the number one thing in your camera bag, your binoculars, of course. And even if you do not have a camera bag, you should have a good pair of binoculars on a trip like this because you can't believe how much one misses out on and loses out if they don't have a good pair of binoculars on a trip like this. And ideally, I would carry, if I'm a serious photographer, I would carry two camera bodies and two lenses, one to do all the long work, all the long telephoto work, and one to do the medium telephoto or the wide angle work. Because I don't want to be changing lenses in the middle of wildlife action. The animal might go away. And even worse, changing lenses while on safari will inevitably get in a lot of dust into your camera, which is something you do not want. We do provide bean bags in the jeeps for those who are interested, so you don't have to carry one with you. A monopod or a tripod, I usually dissuade people from getting because it's not very convenient on a safari jeep and even less convenient at airports. Flashes are not permitted in Indian national parks, and do remember to carry extra batteries, chargers, extra hard drives to download your pictures onto, and maybe even a laptop if you like to work on your pictures. Um, Vinny, this is your favorite part of the trip, isn't it? The airports.
yeah. Airports are one of my favorite spots. Yeah, definitely, because it's lot of herding the cat activity to be done here, because airports in India, I mean, is pretty chaotic in terms of getting into it. There are multiple processes, multiple security checks. So you will have to run your bags through scanners multiple times, and each airport has different regulations. So it's just quite confusing. There's no one rule in one airport. That's there, and we have written elaborately about this experience in our pre-departure briefing. However, packing is something that we'll have to manage. So we have 15 kilograms. I mean, we do, or 33 pounds is what is allowed in the domestic aircraft. So when we travel from outside into India, we may carry something too much. I would recommend to pack accordingly. Just about 33 pounds is one that's allowed. However, if you have a longer trip after this one, you can always store them in a Delhi hotel and get them back at the end of the trip. So that's an option that you could do. But all internal flights are 33 pounds, and above that, they have a cost per kilogram. It's pretty expensive. That's I wouldn't recommend to pay that much for a trip where we'll barely be using a couple of clothes getting into the national park. So then the most important things are security checks in India. It's quite a nightmare. So you will have to remove almost every electronic stuff that you have in your carry-on. All electronic goes into carry-on. So you'll have to bring that out, put that out in the tray, show them that this is what I've got, and run that through scan, repack it, and then get back into the line to catch a plane. So it's quite a activity itself. I don't know. It wouldn't be anyone's favorite part, I guess.
Yeah, so packing right makes the airport experience a lot less taxing. So please listen to your expedition leader, and especially on the pre-trip briefing, and pack uh, properly. Otherwise, you are bound to get pulled out of the line at the airport, and that just makes it all the more painful. All sharp objects go in your check bags, all electronics go in your carry ons, and all electronics come out on a tray. But yeah, don't let that scare you too much. We expedition leaders have become such pros at navigating airports in India. We'll get you through them very, very smoothly if you listen to us.
Yeah, I think this is a quick arrival information, which is just how we start out this whole trip. Yeah, we can go to the next one. So at the moment you arrive into India, somebody will receive you at the airport and then guide you into the hotel and help you check in to the process. So that's the arrival, and the next day is when you meet your expedition leader to do
Yeah.
the Delhi tour.
Right. Yeah. So someone from our office is going to be there at the gate at the airport to receive you. They'll have a placard, but not the NatHab sign on it because of airport security reasons. So look for your name, and they will assist you through immigration and then out into your vehicle. And yeah, all our lodges everywhere that we stay, uh, they accept credit cards. So credit cards and Wi-Fi are things that you don't have to worry about. Again, there's very detailed information on money matters in your pre-departure briefing booklet. So please do go through that before you fly out. Now, transportation, many different forms of transportation, huh, Vineith?
Yeah, I think we have five. Even the boat is to be added in this. So there is aircraft, there is the surface transfer. Yeah, and then we have the elephant back and the boat ride for a couple of hours on the Brahmaputra River.
Yeah, yeah. So depending on what leg of travel we are on and what activity we are doing, we follow different modes of transport. So our city tours, be it at Delhi or Agra, will typically be in these sprinter van kind of vehicles that are really comfortable and have really experienced drivers that we have been using for years and years and who know exactly how usually for our city usage. To national park, which can be long and cover several hundred kilometers, we shall be using these very convenient, very comfortable Toyota MUVs that are they just one of the most comfortable ways of getting around on these long overland journeys. And game drive Jeep, Vineet. We actually, I should probably have included pictures of the pickup trucks that we sometimes, but not always, get to use in Kanha. But yeah, would you like to talk about our safari jeeps?
Yeah, but these are my favorite parts actually, because you can get to any point. I mean, just look at the perspective of how many are there? About 8 people there, with the driver and the guide standing there, and six domestic guests. So that's usual capacity. But for us in our game drive, we limit only up to 4 guests per vehicles. Usually three is the norm that I have seen. Very rarely if the group is fully booked, and that's when we get like four in one of those vehicles. Plus,
Yeah,
one of the expedition leaders would be swapping between these vehicles and rotating on a roster throughout this entire trip. So this vehicle is, it appears so cramped by looking at the people there. I mean, that's how the winter setting would also be, because we are layered up. So that's why we choose not to over book these vehicles and just have it comfortable number up to 3 or 4. And then
yeah.
these vehicles I enjoyed because the ease and access that it gives you to reach and bring you closer to your sighting. This is amazing.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing better than a gypsy to go tiger tracking in.
Yeah. So yeah, here we are, seeing a few pictures of where we are going to stay. Delhi, we earlier talked. This is the Taj Mahal hotel, one of the iconic hotels. And then the first leg of our safari experience is going to be in Bandhavgarh, and King's Lodge is a lodge very beautifully and tastefully done, and amazing meals that they serve here. Mostly Indian cuisine and continental dinner that you can choose from, but their tastes have always like gone better and better and better each year I go there. So they have something new to offer every year. So I can't say what it is like, but I would say there's local cuisine, vegetables that they grow in their backyard, and pulses and things like that from the season. It's an amazing experience to stay as well as food here.
Absolutely. And not only the food and the beautiful property, but um, all of our lodges, in fact, not just King's Lodge, but all of our lodges are, they add to the acreage of the national parks. They don't have fences. They create a lot of habitat. They are large properties of which very small portions are actually built up in, and the rest of the properties have been rewilded. So you do have a lot of wildlife movement through these camps. So be it King's Lodge or be it Singinawa Jungle Lodge, which is what we use at Kanha, we
Yeah,
actually have tigers and leopards walking through camp at night as we slumber in the comfort of our rooms. So yeah, Singinawa is where we stay at in Kanha, and it's a beautiful property built out of local stone and extremely comfortable. And the stone is actually not mined for the property. It wasn't mined for the property. There is a copper mine nearby from which the mine waste stone has been repurposed for building this beautiful lodge. And even here, the food is phenomenal. Oops. Yeah,
yeah. So
slide was jumping a bit.
yeah, so then we stop another night at this Taj Hotel. Here, it's again a hotel very similar to what Delhi is, but this is where we get a good night's sleep and have a nice lie-in and good spread of breakfast as well as dinner. So it's pretty laid back when we're staying out here. This is one break day, I would say, during our heavy safari indulgence.
Yeah. And then from Calcutta or Kolkata, we head to Assam. And after that day, when we fly into Jorhat and have our tea tasting session and that lovely lunch at the tea estate, this is where we arrive and make camp for our stay at Kaziranga. This is the Diflu River Lodge, named after a river that flows out of the park. And this lodge, beautiful lodge, is built right next to the river. And a lot of times on our night of arrival, when we go up to the Machan, at the Flu to have our drinks and dinner. Sitting at the bar, on the deck at the bar, you can often hear rhinos across the river on the other side of the water. So this is another very rustic, very beautiful lodge, but at the same time extremely comfortable and very, very luxurious. So this is our final wildlife lodge on this expedition. And for
Yeah.
those of
Then you
us going out, yeah,
Yeah, then you're back from there after about 3.5 hours watching the Himalayas. You arrive at Delhi, and Delhi, we stay near Aero City. That's just about 15 minutes away from the airport. People who had to catch their flights that evening or the following morning early, so that's their day room there. So that's Delhi, and the rest of us, whoever have chosen to extend their trip to Agra, we drive from the Taj Mansingh, the other hotel that we start from Delhi, uh, to Agra, Taj View. That's where we're gonna stay for the next 2 nights. Yeah,
right.
2 nights or one.
So apologies for the mistake on this slide where it says Delhi, but it's actually Agra. So those of us flying out of Delhi the night we come back from Kaziranga, we stay at the JW Marriott, as Vineith explained, because it's close to the airport. And then the rest of us go to the Taj Mahal, and then we stay at the Taj View at Agra. And then when we come back from Agra, we again go back to the JW Marriott to fly out. So meals are a concern for a lot of people flying into India for the first time, and for a lot of people visiting India, there are a lot of reservations that they have about Indian food. Not everybody loves Indian food. Some people love it. Some people hate it, and for understandable reasons. I mean, not everybody likes curry, but fortunately, all the properties that we stay at, be it the city hotels or the safari lodges, our properties have a massive spread of meals, and our chefs are very, very accommodating. We, of course, receive all your dietary preferences well before the trip begins. So, be it allergies or just simple preferences, we inform the properties beforehand, and they are prepared for you well before you arrive. But in case you neglect or miss mentioning your dietary preferences or allergies at the time of booking, you can always tell your expedition leader and give a reasonable period of notice to the properties, and they will absolutely make customized meals for you. So at the city hotels, it's usually world cuisine. So you can either order from a menu a la carte, or try out the buffet. But at the safari lodges, it's usually a fixed menu, and sometimes it's served at the table, sometimes it's available as a buffet. But if you personally find it, if you do not like what you see in the fixed menus, you can always ask for custom meals. And at the safari lodges, the meals are usually a mix of Indian and continental cuisines, but they will, as I said, always be happy to accommodate any preferences. Of course, within reasonable limits of the fact that these are properties located remotely, far from their supply chains. So, having been well fed, we can start talking about the activities. We need which of these would be your favorite activity?
For me, to top, I would start with nature walks because that's when you actually can map the whole forest and jungle around you. And then,
Yeah,
of course, the game drives where we start actually tracking and spotting wildlife and in these small gypsy vehicles. And
yeah,
elephant safari follows then because of the ease and access and the way the wildlife is so comfortable around a large mammal, which is part of the landscape. So that gives you a very personal and up close experience to wildlife in their natural behavior without disturbing by our presence. Then night game drive I like to see. I mean, because that's when you see something rare and nocturnal like civets or porcupines or even pythons sometimes.
yeah,
So night safari always gives you a surprise. So it's something that you can't predict what you may find at that given day. So that's
yeah,
absolutely my thing. And cultural exposure, because during this whole long drives that we have between each national park, 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, we tend to take our breaks so beautifully. We've planned it out to wherever there's a marketplace. Indian market is beautiful with its spices, colors, bangles, clothing, uh, different fragrances. So we stop over in places like that, and places of important religious importances like the big river Narmada itself, one of the primary rivers, where we stop sometimes to see how the holy bath and temples are being taken by the culture in the local area. And to be fair, we travel through Delhi, the old Delhi conglomerate of people of the Islamic people, the Hindus, the Jains, and the Sikh. All communities in Delhi you meet there. Almost all the religions of the world lives there. And then
yeah.
you start into tribal areas of the central India. You experience the tribal culture of Baiga, the Gond communities. Then you go into Assamese communities. That's a completely beautiful, colorful world, and it just takes you into different cultural exposure. Having said that, the food that you were saying, curries and our chicken masala has usually like given overwhelming taste somewhere else, but only on these trips you'll realize there is Indian food just takes your breath away every 100 kilometers that you travel. There are different salads, different preparations, different desserts. So once you start discovering, then you will see the cultural exposure is much more revealed and seen in the taste buds of our chefs of different lodges.
Absolutely. And our, there's a difference between restaurant Indian food and home Indian food. And a lot of our guests are surprised at how non-spicy Indian food can actually be when they eat at the lodges where the style of cooking is closer to what you or I would cook at home. So, yeah. So, Vineet, I'm told that, chances of tiger sighting when you are in the Jeep are 100%. Now, is that true?
Yeah, yeah. The chances when I am there in my Jeep is 100% true, but I don't know which vehicle.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but the Indian jungle is so amazing. It's about the hide and show sort of a business, unlike where you see in Yellowstone or in Africa, where wildlife is just spread out there. I mean that would be a case in Kaziranga to an extent, but
yes.
central India, it's a hide and chase sort of a safari experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who come to India on safari have gone to Africa several times before that. And when they say safari or think safari, they tend to think Africa. So it's just, I don't want to dissuade anybody or make anybody feel pessimistic, but it's just that India is not Africa. It's a different landscape, it's a different habitat type. It has a lot more vegetation than a lot of places in Africa do. And the vegetation is usually thicker here in a more jungle sort of environment. And tracking animals, elusive big cats like tigers, is an experience in itself. Your you use all your senses, especially your sense of hearing, a lot when tracking these big cats, and the element of chance is always there. So, if one expects to see a tiger on every game drive or even every day, you're bound to get disappointed, unless, of course, you're very, very lucky. So, I would say, in the period of the year when we do this trip, this expedition, that is November through April, seeing a tiger every 5 or 6 game drives would be a realistic expectation. But anything above that is just a bonus. But of course, if one fixates oneself on tigers, one misses out on so much else that is happening. So I would say, and I'm sure Vineith, you would agree, that one needs to fit into the rhythm of the Indian game drive rather than keep African expectations from here in India.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once you break free from only seeing tiger, then choosing to experience a tiger,
Yeah,
that's when the whole thing changes.
yeah, I think you put it really well. Experiencing a tiger versus looking to only see a tiger. And believe me, experiencing the tiger is so much more fulfilling than just the act of seeing one. Because to be in the tiger's territory, to, understand how the animal works, and to follow its tracks, to hear alarm calls and see the impact it has on the landscape, and then see the tiger is so much more exciting than just seeing the tiger. Speaking of which, you know, this, of course, as I was mentioning earlier, is an Indian wildlife trip, but it is an excellent trip to look for tigers, and a lot of our guests do join this trip to look for tigers. So it is right there at the top of our list of megafauna that we look to find on this trip. But we also sometimes do get to see leopards, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, these are very hard to see because we are in a high tiger country.
Yes.
Although some of the areas they share different sort of habitat like everywhere else, wherever the leopards are, they choose to avoid the other co-predators. There's so many like tigers, and there's leopard, the wild dogs, jackals. So they all share different habitats. But seeing a leopard in tiger country is going to be one of the rarest and luckiest chances, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And we do also get to see other large carnivores like the sloth bear sometimes, and the Asiatic or Indian wild dog, also known as the dhole. But one of the highlights of the Grand India Wildlife Expedition is the Grand India Wildlife Adventure are the large herbivores that we get to see, like the Asiatic elephant, of course, the gaur, the Asiatic wild buffalo, and of course the great one-horned rhinoceros. But we also get to see a lot of other ungulates like deer and antelope, several different species of deer and a few species of antelope. And of course, as Vineith was explaining so well a little while ago, a very high diversity of primates. And not just that, we also get to see the Gangetic River dolphin and a phenomenal amount of birds beneath. What
Yeah.
would you say is 600
About
species
six.
plus birds
Yeah,
in
yeah.
all the.
All these parks. Yeah, Kaziranga alone will top over 500, and the Central India would have about 300 odd species with an overlap. So 600 is about 50% of the bird species numbers that we have in the Indian subcontinent. Yeah,
Yeah. So a lot of people ask me, since this trip runs from November through April, a lot of people ask which is a better time. But do you think there's a better time?
I don't think so. Any time in a jungle is the best time. But having said that, during this trip, it depends on what you're looking at, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, in winter, I love the jungle in the winter. It's to start with, the weather is so beautiful and so pleasant. And of course, tigers might be less visible in the winter than they are in the peak of summer. But when you see a tiger in the winter, oh my God, to see them in that thick winter coat and the beautiful shafts of morning light through the mist, it's absolutely incredible. It's
Yeah.
ethereal to see a tiger in those circumstances. And that's why I love watching and photographing tigers in winter light. And of course, tigers do get more vocal in the winter. And of course, the one of the advantages of being there in winter as a birder is that you get to see a lot of the winter migrants that you would not see at other times of the year. But having said that, spring and summer are also nice, aren't they?
Yeah, spring and summer is another way because that's when the season of bloom is, and you will
Yes.
see resident bird species in high numbers in most of these silk, cotton trees and any other flowering trees that we stop by. And like you said, winter is the time where the tiger is most active in terms of, I mean, why you won't see so much is because they're so active. You'll see them
Yeah.
vocalizing and other animals vocalizing. They're super active, marking their territories,
Yeah.
rake marking, scratching, walking long ranges and pathways. So it's fun to use your tact and get that uh, you know uh, the judgment of where they would come out, anticipation and games like that. So this is when the tiger really teaches you how the jungle looks like, and graces and sight or something here and there in the winter forest. Summer is something that you would possibly expect them more around water holes and mostly lazing around the water holes for 3 to 4 days on a straight, probably making a kill nearby the water hole. So they wouldn't really wander and show you the whole forest so much. But just while waiting around the water hole for the tiger to come out, that's when your birding activities peak. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't really matter to me like what season I am at. So I make the most of it. As an expedition leader such as you who's guiding me, I would make the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime, winter or summer, they both have their own advantages, and I would love to use both of them. So, with that, I would like to hand it back to Rob and see what questions our lovely audience has for us.
Thanks, Aditya. Thanks,
Oh,
Rob.
all right, everyone. Thank you so much. Now, before we dive into the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions via the question field in your control panel. All right, so let's dive into some of these questions. So, if I'm going on the trip in March, is the new walking experience going to be taking place then?
Absolutely. It's starting with this season, and it's going to happen on every trip.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much. Um, so, how comfortable are the vehicles? For the vehicles on the longer trips, would I need a cushion or anything, or are they going to be a comfortable ride for me?
Vineeth, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, on our longer drives between the park, which is about 5 hours or 4 hours and three, this is where we have very comfortable Innova Toyota vehicles, which have got their individual captain seats, and they're pretty comfortable. However, if you have a back issue or something, most of these lodges do have their small pillows that you can actually carry along, and we can make facilities like that in these vehicles there also. Having said that, the Safari game drive vehicles are going to be a little more cumbersome if you have lower back issues or knee issues. But we still try and accommodate, working it out with the drivers to you choose sit in the front seat where it's much lower down and things like that. So we adapt, and also getting in and out of these vehicles is a bit of challenge when you have a lot of hip surgeries and things like that. But yeah, we will have to work that out, especially in the safari vehicles here.
Yeah, we do have stools and steps for people who might find it challenging getting into these vehicles. But especially for people with lower back issues, just sitting in the front seat next to the driver makes a massive difference.
So, when we're driving around in the vehicles, and say I need to use the restroom, is that going to be an issue? Will we be able to stop? Are there places to go?
Well, there are specific places in the parks where one is permitted to get out of the vehicle. We can't just stop anywhere. If it's an emergency, it's a different matter. But we would recommend that you give your driver or your expedition leader about a 20-minute heads up, so that they can drive you to the nearest restroom in the park, where it is safe to get down from the vehicle.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. Um, so, um, so is there a best time of year to come on this trip? Say, is March considered winter or spring in India? What can you tell us about that?
So, Rob,
Uh,
March, April is spring. It's just a change of season there. Uh, that's when the flowering is at peak. The summer is just is arriving into the country and landscape. And mornings is still nippy and cold. You will still need about 2 layers or probably even a down jacket on you. Uh, you would never underestimate the spring here. Uh, but otherwise, to say the best season, we just discussed like any season, it depends on what you're looking for. What sort of wildlife experiences are you looking for? So, if it is mostly large mammals and things like that, throughout the year, we have different behavior that we encounter. And seeing most wildlife is almost as guaranteed as any other season.
Great,
yeah.
thank you. So, if I'm a birder and I want to see lots of birds, is this a good trip for me? And will you be able to point these out for me when we see them?
Oh, absolutely. This is a fantastic trip for you if you're a birder. And if you're a birder, then I would certainly say that winter is a better time to come than summer. And yes, we do point out the birds to you. Our guides are excellent birders. Our expedition leaders are excellent birders, and we watch everything. We don't, while big cats and megafauna, of course, are high on our priority list, we do try and give you as wholesome an Indian wildlife experience as we can on these trips.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. So, what about food and water? I know we'll have a diet for us, but are there any risks for me? Are we going to have enough water sources along the way? Is that something I need to worry about?
Yeah, like most NatHab trips, we follow the no plastic policy, no water bottles that we consume from plastic. However, we have the treated water that is provided everywhere. All the hotels that we chose are all using treated water with reverse osmosis systems and other sort of sophisticated system nowadays that they get. So they treat it. And when we're traveling, we always carry water between our journeys. Also, these transportation, they carry our water. And food in these whole trip is going to be very exciting. It is a variable food starting right from Delhi onwards. All these hotels have got phenomenal ratings for their food, and they got great chefs that they make both continental and Indian food. And my favorite part of the meal time is the safari breakfast. In the morning, we usually carry sandwiches and rolls, and it's just a beautiful setting uh, to be in the national park and having your breakfast.
Yeah,
All
to
right,
add
that's
to that, Rob, just to add very quickly, the city hotels that we stay at are five-star hotels, and the safari lodges we stay at are four-star equivalent. So our guests can expect hygiene and other standards to be of those levels. So food and water hygiene are not something they have to worry about.
great to know. Thank you guys so much. What about laundry? I know we're trying to limit how much we pack. Is there going to be the opportunity to do laundry?
Yes, laundry is available at all the properties we stay at, and especially at the safari lodges. The cost of laundry is so little that we actually encourage you to have your laundry done there rather than carry, extra clothes. I mean, all of us get our laundry done every day at the safari lodges. It's so reasonably priced. But of course, we would avoid doing our laundry at the five-star hotels in the cities because it's the number one, it's so expensive, and then our stays there are so short. But it's very convenient to have your laundry done and very cheap to have it done at the safari lodges.
So if I'm worried about weight, should I are hiking boots too much? Will tennis shoes be okay?
See, I mean,
Absolutely.
we're doing a walk. We're doing a walk. Hiking boot is not really necessary, but at least a, shoe which has enough grip that you could walk in the jungles for about, say, couple of miles to 3 to 4 miles, probably maximum that we might walk. It's usually that's what you will have to expect. Otherwise, you're mostly inside a safari vehicle. You just can use your tennis shoes. That's okay there, but just for walking is what you need a good grip on your shoe.
Should we worry about the color of our clothing? Are there particular colors that we should avoid?
Yeah, it's always a good idea to avoid bright primary colors on safari. We always advise people to wear muted colors, shades of browns and greens. Not as much as because it helps you merge into your surroundings. Which wearing jarring clothes can even make animals notice you, but also out of respect for other people's sense of aesthetics, because a lot of people visit these national parks or go on safari to escape the visual noise and every other kind of noise that urban life exposes us to. So they are going there to have a pleasant time out in the wilderness, and they don't want to be seeing jarring colors standing out in the jungle or spoiling their pictures in the while being in the background of an animal or something like that. So yes, it is always advisable to wear greens and khakis while out on safari.
Great, thanks for that advice. So our understanding is that we can't go off road. So is that going to limit what we can see? And when we do encounter animals, are we going to be able to stop and watch them?
Yeah, I mean, we have these very strict rules in Indian national parks where we'll have to stick to certain roads that they have marked for tourism only. And having said that, all these animals that we are actually tracking have been so used to one vehicle, and the drivers and the guides both have been tracking them for seasons after season. So we have certain points where these animals have a particular behavior. These are creatures of habit. So we tend to make our safari experiences centered around those areas if those animals are active around that particular region. It works with a very complex logic and discussion between the three party, with the driver, the guide, and us. So it's a complex decision of choosing routes, choosing our spot for viewing particular wildlife. So we manage that very well, and the it's a very amazing experience to completely use your senses and intuitions here, because not just the off-roading is not encouraged, even using of cell phones, radios are not encouraged in these national parks in anywhere in India. So it's completely based on your guide's expertise and intuition, and understanding the senses. So that's the experience of tiger that we get during these national parks.
Great, thank you for that answer. Well,
Yeah.
unfortunately, gentlemen, that is going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to hand it back to you guys for your closing comments.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you to our wonderful audience. I certainly hope that you all are excited and looking forward to be on your Grand India Wildlife Adventure this season. And we certainly are eagerly looking forward to the season starting and us being on safari again. We certainly hope you found this webinar useful, and it'll help you prepare yourselves better for your adventure, Vineith.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Rob, and thank you all for listening patiently. Looking forward to meet you on the safari. One of us, or I myself and Adi, might see one of you.
Vineeth, Aditya, thank you both so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd
Thanks a lot.
also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. So if you are interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, please give us a call at the number on your screen, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.